Hi everyone, it's me again, Paul, and today we're going to be talking about the menace to society, the porked purloiner himself, Porco Rosso the Jaw Titan. I recently took this deck to the Stark Dark 2.5k event and performed exceedingly well with it, earning myself a 4-1-1 record and a 5th place Swiss finish. Though we didn't opt to play out top 8, I'm very proud of this placement as it was among some of the people that inspired me a ton when I first started playing this game, with players such as Tim Keefe, Jose Narono, Chris Bromley, Tam Cardwell, Josh Moore, and Chris Miner being among my fellow top placing players, all of them being people that I've looked up to throughout my UVS career. If you had told me back in 2022, when I first started playing this game, that I would be among these people in a top finishing bracket one day, let alone beating one of them in Swiss, near beating the Swiss champ, and beating the first content creator I ever watched while playing this game, I would have been stunned out of my mind. I am very proud of the person and the player that I've become, and I'm equally honored to have topped with my good friend and teammate, Richard Bernard, who ended up getting a 3rd place finish with his Hanji 1 deck that you can read all about on our website in his articles describing the deck and breaking it down in his Tech Decks article, as well as his article talking about his tournament experience. But we're not here to talk about Hanji 1 today, gang. We're here to talk about the man that would rather be a pig than a fascist. My man, Porco. I would be super remiss if I didn't shout out the original creator of the list that I took to this event, my good friend Andrew Holder, who built the first draft of this deck pretty soon after AOT3 came out, and who taught me the deck and encouraged me to play it in a big event. He walked me through the game plan, and I realized that it was just the perfect fit for me. I really love card pool shenanigans, and I love the way that Porco is able to tutor exactly what he needs from his discard, and it just checked off all the boxes on a character that I wanted to play competitively. We had some really good discourse on the character, and I felt like I had polished it to a point that I was really proud of for the event, and even though I've made some changes following the event, I'm still really proud of where the deck landed for the tournament, and I'm super excited to talk about it with you guys right now. As always, I'm going to walk you guys through the character and what he does, just to give you a little bit of a refresher. Even if you play the game a lot and already know what he does, it's a nice way to kind of set the tone for what we're going for. So, Porco is a 7 hand size 24 health character with the death and fire symbols, as well as the Titan and Warrior keywords. He has a massive enhance ability, which states, Mill 3, your Fury or Titan attack gets +1 speed and +1 damage. If you have 4 or more attacks in your card pool, add 1 card from your card pool to your hand, add 1 card from your hand to your card pool, and you may transform Porco Galliard. On his transform side, he states your Fury and or Titan attacks get +1 speed and +2 damage. Additionally, he has a response which states sacrifice 1 foundation. After your rival plays a block, seal it. Though we can transform Porco to the flip side, there is a simple word with this character that transforms him into an unstoppable killing machine. That word is, simply put, may. We don't have to transform Porco, and most of the time, we're not going to transform Porco unless we just need that extra +2/+2 from his backside. So, as soon as we get 4 cards in our card pool, we can just continue to stuff it and repeatedly play the same cards over and over and over again until we have literally 0 cards in our hand. Because of this, a lot of people have opted to play this character as a turn 2 aggro machine, but I'm here to say you probably shouldn't be doing that. This isn't to say you should never kill on turn 2, right? But with my build, I wanted to focus more on a turn 3 type of game plan. The reason for this being, Porco really wants a massive discard pile in order to be consistent. The main line of this deck is using the card Mighty Blitz to either tutor a card we want to play later in the string out of our discard, or to bring a card that gives the attacks in our card pool static damage buffs in order to make our strings even more menacing. The main targets for this are going to be Titan Armbar and Jaw Titan's Bite for the damage pump, or teaming with the Attack Titan as the card that we tutor to play later in the string. If we try to kill a little too early, we could end up not having the resources we need in our discard to pull attacks to the card pool. And usually by the third turn of the game, our rival will usually have at least poked us, allowing us to use Porco's Enhance to fill up our discard at least a little bit more and give us more options to choose from. Additionally, Porco is usually checking against a 5 pretty much throughout his entire attack string, and having a smaller stage means it's going to be a lot harder for us to pass those big checks, even if we happen to find a Marley's Warrior and a Capture the Target. While all aggro characters generally can make it happen early, I found that aggro decks are a lot more consistent when we have the stage to properly support our aggressive game plan. So, how do we live to turn 3? I've seen a lot of people propose this thesis that this character just can't properly defend himself against aggressive decks in this format, and I just don't fully agree with that. Fire and Death give this character access to some very strong defensive cards, including one of the best reset foundations in the game in Desperate Struggle, as well as Barrier Shield, which, while being kind of a lazy defensive piece, it is very potent in the current meta. Additionally, Porco's access to discard pile triggers such as Loss of Consciousness and I'm With You are really effective on both ends of play. Loss of Consciousness can seal your rival's strongest aggressive piece or their strongest defensive piece, and I'm With You can be a really efficient form of damage reduction. Many people tend to see the latter as an aggressive piece that pushes damage pump, but truthfully, I put that card in the deck as a form of damage reduction. I found it to be especially potent with the card Attack Titan's Hardening, where we can blow up an I'm With You to give an attack -3 damage, making one of our rivals' more gentle pokes not hit us for quite as much damage. Additionally, Lust for Battle is just a really good way to hack our rival's check. Even if they end up just playing a card to get rid of the check and continue on their turn, they still had to discard a card, and I think that that's worth just a simple foundation. Personally, with these pieces, I have not had a hard time just playing good Universus defense with this character, and I think as long as you've got solid fundamentals of this game down, you'll be able to survive most turn 2 kills your rival will try to throw at you, especially if you've got a strong stage to support it. The really spicy pick of the deck I do want to discuss before we move into the event itself is Bad Guy Roundup. I've confused quite a number of people with this choice, and I wanted to talk about why it's in there. The main reason is I struggled a bit against a couple of different momentum decks in testing, one of them in particular being John Kirstein, who has a really efficient way of blocking if he has momentum. So having this card in the deck is just a really good way to answer that. Additionally, some Void decks really like to play foundations that have a momentum cost, such as Condescending Explanation, and just having a clean answer to cards like that is really, really nice. With all that out of the way, guys, let's break down the event. So I sadly didn't really get any event footage, but I will put up pictures when they matter. Round 1 of this event, I unfortunately got paired into my roommate on Mollymuck, which is unfortunate as nobody wants to fight their friends that they're rooting for to do well in a big event, especially not in the first round. I've practiced this matchup dozens of times and knew that as long as I had a face-up foundation that I was willing to destroy, I'd be okay going against this deck's strong seal ability. Truthfully, the scariest thing that happened in this game was in one of my kill streams, I believe in game 2, I fell for one of the classic modern blunders. She Breaker 3 blocked one of my Mighty Blitzes, and then when I tried to play through the Breaker, she said military airship, add it back to hand, and I realized I might have been cooked. She double Breaker 3'd me, and I knew my turn was over, and I think I built 1 or 2 foundations in pass. I did end up taking the set 2-0, but not without her making me sweat quite a bit. Round 2, I played against another local, my friend Dani on their Annie deck. This matchup was unfortunate for a couple of reasons. For one, I knew this deck like the back of my hand. I'd played against it a ton of times. I knew exactly what they were going to do, and I knew exactly how to counteract it. On the flip side, though, they also had this information. But I do think that my deck was better positioned to counteract their game plan than their deck was to counteract my game plan. There was also a really unfortunate judge call that happened, where Dani drew 1 too many cards. They got to reveal their hand to me, and I got to see that they had a Filled Without and 2 attacks. I removed the Filled Without for my kill turn, and I held the block zones to block their 2 attacks. And that was, unfortunately, what won me that game. With that, though, they didn't go without putting up a fight, as they were able to take a game off of me and killed me with a really sick string that I believe involved Harness Undeath. We won the set 2-1, and even though it was a little bit unfortunate, Dani and I always have great games, and I'm really thankful that I got to play against them in this tournament. We both played our butts off, and I'm very proud of both of us. We head into round 3, and truthfully, I was only feeling okay up to this point. I had only played against locals, and they were decks that I knew really well. So I was going into the winner seeded bracket, and I was going to be playing against decks that I hadn't played against before. And I was a little worried about the matchups I would be experiencing next. However, when pairings went up, I was very excited to see that I was paired against my good friend Tyrell Scott from Ty's House of Cards, and we were playing the mirror match. This was especially special for me because Ty is the first content creator that I ever watched in Universus. I remember sitting in my friend's room at his house, and we turned on the TV in his room, and we popped on Ty's Learn to Play vid, and it was really cool to learn later on that he only lived an hour away from me, and I got to meet him, we got to hang out, and he taught me a lot about what it means to run a community and run a locals, and I based a lot of my philosophies for my local scene off of his philosophies for building a local scene. So I'm very grateful to Ty and for his mentorship in this game. This game was an absolute joy overall, and it was super intense, though it did have an unfortunate moment that was a misplay on Ty's end that caused him to lose his rhythm in the game. For the sake of my friend, I'm not going to say exactly what it was. I think that's on him to reveal if he wants to do his own video on it, but he did unfortunately lose a bit of his steam after that. Even with that, though, I had a ton of practice on this deck, and it was a deck that he had picked up fairly recently, so I think my experience was able to overtake this match, and I did end up taking it 2-0. Ty, though, is a phenomenal player, and we had a killer set that really showcased how strong he was. Even with the unfortunate misplay, he had a lot of brilliant moves that he made that had me sweating. And it was really cool for me because it was kind of one of those student surpassing the teacher moments that we don't get to have very often. And I was very honored to be able to beat him and for him to be so humble in his losses. So big shout out to Ty. I'm going to leave a link to his channel in the description. Please check him out. Please support him. He's starting to get the ball rolling on content again. And I'm very proud of him and very supportive of the route that he's taken. Following round 3, I was pleased and also terrified that I was paired against Jose, who was staying with me that weekend. So we had talked about our decks a little bit and had already exchanged some ideas on what our decks may or may not do in that matchup. It was truthfully one of the best games of UVS I think I've ever played in my life. I had a crazy turn that I want to talk about where on turn 2, going into my turn, I had about 5 foundations in my stage, 2 Mighty Blitzes in hand, and 2 teamings in my hand. But there was a problem. I couldn't kill Jose. His stage was insanely defensive, topped off with 2 disarming glances that I couldn't play through with just the 4 attacks in my hand. So I did one of the ballsiest things that I think I have ever done in a game of Universus. I played a Marley's Warriors, a Seething Anger, milled 2, drew a card, and passed the turn. We talked about this turn after the game, and I don't quite remember what Jose's quote was, but he said it was something akin to me loading up a shotgun, cocking it, pointing it at his head, and saying, "I dare you to kill me on my next turn." He only drew a Battle Aura release and tried to fish for another attack, but he was not able to find it. He built a little bit and passed back to my turn, and I drew the one more attack that I needed to play through 2 disarming glances. And I was able to finish the job with a really sick kill string that I believe ended with me playing out my entire hand. Game 2, he was able to take me down. I don't entirely remember the kill string, but it was very well done on his end. Jose is a baller player, and he knows how to get the job done. Game 3, though, was super intense, because I started off that game poking him on turn 2, and I discarded 2 attacks with my latent skill because I was trying to build out my stage. I wasn't trying to be too aggressive into him right then, and I just wanted to find more foundations. But he looked at me discard 2 attacks, and he looked at his hand and he shrugged. He blocked my attack, and he committed out. And I went, "You committed out your stage?" And he goes, "Yeah, you discarded 2 attacks. You're not going to kill me." And I looked at my hand, and I had 2 mighty blitzes in my hand. And I just looked back up at him, and I shrugged, and I went, all right, buddy, I'm going to go for it. We ended up getting him down to, I want to say, like 5 health that turn. We were just barely off from killing him. I think he blocked like the exact right attack that he needed to, which is what you can expect from a professional player like Jose. His next attack turn, we had a super intense game of chicken that involved me barrier shielding a battle aura, I believe, him canceling my barrier shield, and he said, yeah, you're going to need another one, buddy. Try again. And I had the other barrier shield, and I played it and set his move to 0. I remember being able to live that turn, and on my next turn, all I drew was a Titan armbar and a Besiege with a transformed Porco. But with the stage that he had, as he committed out pretty hard on his last attack turn, I thought there was a possibility that I just might get there. I went for the kill with the armbar to stun him out a little bit. He blocked it, and I put him on a Besiege block. I don't remember the exact board state, but I remember that he looked at it and he went, well, if I check a 6, I live. And he played his card down. I looked at the top card of his deck. He flipped it over, and he checked a syndicate target. He checked the 6. I think I slammed my fist on the table and yelled, "Ugh!" And I think like everyone in the venue looked at me at that moment while Jose was cackling like a maniac. And we laughed about how absurd it was that he managed to check that 6. But he did. And then I believe that because I had committed out to try to play those last 2 attacks, I think I checked bad on the armbar or something, he was able to finish me off on the next turn. It was one of the most devastating games of the entire event for me. But we talked about it afterwards, and I played perfectly. We talked about every decision that I could have made that game, and every single one that I made, we agreed was the right one in the moment. And I'm really proud of that, not just to have made perfect decisions, but also to have been told by a really skilled player that I played perfectly. We shook hands, we smiled, we laughed, and we both agreed that it was one of the best games of UVS that we've played in a long time. Not just because of the game itself, but also because we were just cracking jokes and having fun the whole time. It was very sweet, very wholesome, and I wish I had recorded it because truthfully, it was just that good of a game, man. I was a bit scared at this point going into round 5 because my opponent was Chris Miner, who's an old head, who's been playing the game for a while, if you don't know what old head means, who was pretty well decorated from some early MHA1 meta events and some older events from the pre-MHA format. He was on Rodan for this event, and truthfully, this game was so intense that I don't remember very much of our interactions. I just remember it being a long and intense game 3, but some very quick games 1 and 2. I can't remember which one of us went first, but I remember being absolutely flabbergasted because he killed me, I think, on turn 3 with Rodan, and that was just not something I was expecting. And truthfully, I think I disrespected him a bit. I think I played one too many foundations, and if I had held just one more card to block with, I would have been fine. But I disrespected him, and I got punished for it. And that's just the way it goes. But I got him on the next one, and I beat the crap out of him with a crazy, I want to say turn 3, turn 4 kill, and I just completely shut down his defense. It was very, very tight. Again, I don't remember the specific lines, but I do remember both of those games. Both of us just kind of... Again, I don't remember the specifics, and Chris might come into the comments like, it was not very tight, thank you very much. But I do remember that both of us were just kind of like, yeah, we both got a game where we got to pop off on each other. Let's go. And I distinctly remember after he killed me on turn 3, I went, dang, man, I didn't expect Rodan to kill me that quickly. And he looked at me, and he just kind of giggled, and he goes, yeah, man, I didn't either. Our game 3, on the other hand, was a bit of the UVS classic game 3, where our first 2 were quick and aggressive, and then our third one was long and intense. I remember going into my final kill turn after I had taxed all of his resources, and I remember playing the final teaming that I could possibly check during this attack string. And he stared at me intensely during this, just daring me to make a misplay. I looked at my board, I looked at every possible move that I could have made during this attack, and I made sure that I did everything right, And I looked up, I looked at him, and I said, pass. Chris smiled at me, and he extended his hand out for a handshake, securing my place in the top 8. Truthfully, I'm not really a crier, but I almost cried. It was one of the most formative UVS memories for me, and I'm very grateful for a fantastic set against a fantastic player. And what's more, he won his round 6, and partially because of my tiebreakers, he was able to secure his way into top 8, and we both got to celebrate our win together. We go into round 6, and before pairings are even up, Tam elbows me because he's figuring out the stream matches, so he gets to see the pairings beforehand, and he goes, yo, Paul, we're IDing, right? And I just look at him and I quickly nod and I go, yeah, man, absolutely. And he just kind of nods. He goes and he wraps up setting up the stream. He walks over to me, hands his phone out, and we confirm that we're IDing, and he extends his hand out to handshake me. And I think I just moved it to the side and gave him a big hug. It was just a fantastic moment for both of us. And I'm proud of both of us for doing a really good job at that event. We walked over to Tim and Jose, who had also ID'd into top. We all shook hands, said congratulations, and then I think Tim went, yo, you want to do a boss battle? And I went, actually, I kind of want to do a board game with Tim. And Tim goes, ooh, I'd much rather do a board game than a boss battle. And Tim was like, dang it. Speaking of which, Tam has a really cool boss battle, and you might be seeing some content about it that may or may not feature me in the near future. I'll let you know when it comes up. And when we got to top 8, we took a great picture, and we decided to split the top cuts. And I do want to talk about it because for some reason that was a little controversial, and I get why. I think people wanted event data and people wanted deck list data, but I think if you were there in the moment, you would have realized that it was just the right thing to do. We were all just happy that we had done well in an event. We were enjoying each other's company, and Tam had to leave in the morning anyways, and we wanted to make sure that he got his fair share of the prize money. So we all just said, hey, what if we just split it? And then we can all just hang out and enjoy each other's company tomorrow. People that want to play retro can play retro. The people that want to play board games can play board games. And the people that have to leave can leave. And they didn't know it at the time, but Josh and Chris Bromley also had to leave the next morning. So it would have been a very uneventful top 8, truthfully. And it probably wouldn't have given as much data as we wanted it to. So it turned out for the best, and I'm really thankful for the decision that we made, and I know that it was the right decision in the right moment. And I'm sorry for everyone that is disappointed by that, but truly, if you were there, you would have hopefully felt the same way. The next day, I woke up, I played 2 rounds of retro, and I scrubbed out, and I played board games with Tim, Kevin, and Michael Buck, and we just had a great time. And it was truly just a really great way to end the weekend. I really enjoyed hanging out with Tim and Kevin, as I really only interact with them online. So getting to hang out in person and play a board game, which truthfully is something that I've wanted to do with Tim for a really long time, ever since I knew he was a board game enthusiast, because I also love board games. They're a really fun hobby of mine outside of UVS, and it was just a really fun experience to get to play with them. After that, we all got dinner and we went our separate ways. It was a truly fantastic event, and I am so thankful to everyone who helped make this weekend so special. Thank you to all of my opponents for giving me some truly fantastic, hyper-competitive games, and for being a part of my journey to my first ever UVS Top Cut. Special thanks as well to Stark Dark for hosting the event, in particular to head judge Paul Casagrande. I love you, buddy. Chad Raffield, owner of Stark Dark, also love you, buddy. And, of course, Michael Buck, my friend who helped set up the event and judge the event as well. I also want to shout out my boys at Counterspell Games who hosted the event, Nick and Johnny. We would not have a local scene in Jacksonville without you guys. You guys mean a lot to us, and truly now to the greater UVS community. You are good people, and you are help pushing this game forward in a way that not a lot of game stores are doing. So thank you guys for being willing to take a risk on our small little card game. This event really did feel like what UVS events should feel like. It felt like a big family reunion. It felt like a big group hug among friends. And it's what I would hope that all UVS events feel like, even the big regional hyper-competitive ones. It's all about love. It's all about family, and enjoying each other's company. Yes, competition is important, and we love competition. We love winning, but don't forget that there's a person sitting across the table from you who loves the game just as much as you and would love to talk about the game with you more. I highly encourage you guys to check out Stark Dark's next event in St. Louis, as it is going to be another fun one. And I'm going to try to make it out if I can. I haven't fully confirmed travel plans yet, but if I'm there, I would love to meet you, and I would love to play some competitive games with you, or some casual board games with you. Thank you all for joining me on this journey and for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment telling me what you think. And if you want to try out this Porco deck, I'll leave it in the description for you. And if you have any questions about how to pilot it, or even better, how to beat it, I would love to talk with you through it. It is a scary deck that I expect to see a pretty solid amount of at the Louisville Regional coming up. Thanks again, guys. And as always, keep coping.